Welcome everyone for joining us, and welcome to Dan for being with us this evening. Just a little overview of Dan's career. I'm sure you all know him well from the BTCC. Started off in karting, had an amazing performance in 2013 in British Formula Ford, winning all 24 races he entered, then went on to subsequently win back-to-back crowns in Porsche Carrera Cup GB. In 2015, 2016, spent 2017 in Porsche Carrera Cup GB Championship and also in the Pan-European Championship, heading out around Europe. Of course, raced all over the world as well in various other championships. And in 2018, stepped up to the British Touring Car Championship to replace Gordon Shedden in the Honda-backed Halford Tuasa Racing. I hope I'm saying that right.
Absolutely spot on.
Last year, of course, heartbreaking finish to the year, losing out to Colin Tackington on the penultimate lap. But this year, you won the first race of the year. You've been on the podium at all but one venues this year. So hopefully it's looking up. Welcome, Dan Cammish.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for having me. Hello, everybody.
So to get started, I think we can all agree that 2020 is not the year we thought it would be. Back in January at the Autosport show, when you were, of course, launching this championship. BTCC is known for the atmosphere at the circuits and its super passionate fans. How has it actually been for you as a driver in these strange times and this strange atmosphere in the paddock?
Yeah, it's certainly not the same. It's there are certain parts of it that actually are not as bad. Obviously, we are so consumed anyway on a weekend. The thing with touring cars is it starts on a Saturday morning and obviously finishes on the Sunday. But once it starts on a Saturday, it is just hectic. We are constantly pulled between either driving the car, debriefing, sponsorship talks in hospitality. At some point, you've got to try and eat as well and do that. It feels like a whirlwind, really. So without having to do certain parts of the hospitality, not give talks to sponsors, etc., we actually have a bit more time to ourselves, which in a way is actually quite nice. Would I swap it on normal terms? No, of course not, because the fans make motorsport and they certainly make BTCC. So when we're out on track, I wouldn't say we notice too much because you're so focused on the track ahead, on the next move, on the car behind. You don't have time to look at the grandstands, and if you do, you're looking in the wrong place. But I have to say, like the cool down laps, if you had a great result, or even if you haven't, we always try and take time to wave to the marshals and obviously the fans that have made the trip out to see us. That is not the same, and certainly part of winning in touring cars, it's such a fantastic achievement and also a great moment to win a race in British touring cars. That's sort of taken away a little bit, and certainly the podium celebration on top of that. Usually there'll be lots of people flocking to the podium to give you a round of applause, and it's just empty. And unfortunately, it's not quite the same, but we are racing and we are live on ITV4. So, I'm glad we're back to it, and at least hopefully we're bringing some entertainment on a Sunday to the fans.
Yeah, and I suppose, you can still do your cheer for the TV crews and everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Watching at home. So we're now almost halfway through the championship, which seems crazy to say. 12 rounds down out of 30. How are you feeling going into the rest of the season?
Yeah, it's weird that you say that we're almost halfway when you consider we've done 4 out of the last 5 weekends, which is pretty crazy sort of starts to any season. We've just, due to the COVID situation, we've had to cram in as much as possible in the shortest possible time. And we're not the only people doing that. There's other championships out there that are obviously going for exactly the same. It's made for quite a different season, though. The teams obviously get much less time to turn around. So, for example, from Alton Park to Knockhill, a lot of the teams didn't go home. They just went straight up to the track. And that brought its own challenges because touring cars, even though they're not the fastest car around the circuit, when you consider maybe the Porsche Championship is actually considerably faster when it comes to lap time. The touring cars are really, they're all bespoke and they are quite highly strung. They take quite a lot of preparation. for example, between any event, our engines will be taken from the cars, all the subframes are removed, brakes, dampers, everything is rebuilt. So you're talking about a team like myself in Dynamics will basically take the car back to almost its bare shell and start again each week. And obviously we just haven't really had time to do that to the same level. And then having to go to Knockhill straight away from the track meant, one, you parked on a hill, so it's like this. The guys had to do some really late nights. They actually stayed at Alton Park on the evening of Sunday, took the engines out, did the clutch work that we have to do, because the clutches get shimmed to make sure that we always start at the same point. Put them back in and then back into the truck and then up to Knockhill. So turnaround times is obviously changed a lot. That means preparation is more key than ever, because I think you will see as the season goes on more and more problems with reliability. We've already seen quite a few issues with reliability. Certainly at Brands Hatch, that was abnormally hot. It was 35 degrees, I think, on the Sunday. And I think you will see some more issues with reliability as the season goes on, just because the teams will be so stretched and the time frame is so short. So that'll be interesting to watch for. And yeah, you know, so far so good for us. We've had a sensible start to the season. I'd say it's been solid, if not spectacular. I hope we've got more to come. We'll have to see. I mean, at this point last year, I was a similar sort of distance behind Colin. He does have a habit of getting off to a great start. But also looking at his results, he does have a bit of a habit of dropping the ball a little bit towards the end. And I don't know whether that's because maybe that's the pressure, maybe that's just the way the circuits work for him. But we caught up a massive amount in the second half of last season. So I'm fingers crossed that we can do the same again.
Leading on from that quite nicely, Rob Squire, hello Rob, has sent a question in saying, Dan, do you still think you're in with a chance to win the championship this year? My heart is still broken for you after your accident at Brands last year. You deserve to be champion.
Yeah, last year, what a shame that was. To have come as far as we did. Like I say, we were a similar sort of distance away at this point last year. And then I went on such a sort of hot streak in the middle of the season. I had 14 podiums out of the, in the season, which is essentially one in at 50%, which is quite crazy really in touring cars to have that kind of podium ratio. We took the fight to BMW when no one else could. And ultimately, if there was a way to try and win a touring car season, that was it. It was start behind, catch up all the way to the end, and then nick it right at the last second. That would be the ideal way to do it, just because then you're not carrying the top weight all the time. And yeah, what a blow to come within sort of a lap and a half. Nothing I can do can take that back. And I can't tell you how many sleepless nights I've had about it. But unfortunately, it happened. Mechanical failures happen in motorsport all the time. And I'd done 59 races and never had an issue. It just happened to be the one I needed to. But that also tells a story in the fact that we weren't quite fast enough in 2019. I needed a perfect season to beat the BMW, where BMW didn't need a perfect season to beat me. And truth is, it's impossible for any team or any driver to be perfect all the time. And heartbreaking circumstances. But if I'd have had a breakdown 4 races earlier, I wouldn't have won it either. So it just so happened that it happened just at the wrong moment. Moving on from that, winning the first race of this season was fantastic and obviously lifted my spirits quite a lot. I needed that because I'd had a long winter, longer than ever really before, due to COVID, where I'd been dwelling on it. There's a bit of a saying that you're only as good as your last race, and mine hung over me for a long, long time. So it was nice to sort of finally get back to racing and then get that win. And it really sort of spurred me on a little bit. Can we still win? Yeah, of course we can. We do need some changes. We need some luck, and we need Colin and Ash to have some bad luck, and it will come. It definitely will come, because there will come a point where Colin and Ash, if you take the weekend, for example, Colin was quite happy to follow Ash round. Didn't really make much of an attempt to overtake him. Didn't really cause too much of an issue for him. That might not be the same once you get towards the end, because those points all make a difference, and there will come a point where they can no longer be quite as amicable as they are being. And that's the time where I need to be right there, ready to take advantage of that. obviously I've got a great teammate in Matt who will support me 100%. And, Matt's a little bit away behind now in the championship, and he will continue to push me forward at every opportunity. That's something that a lot of other guys don't have in their armoury. But we do need a little bit of help probably from Toka, because we're just not quick enough. And that's not me sort of preaching and asking for, trying to get help in any way. It's just look at the results. To give you an example, at the weekend, the best front wheel drive qualifier was Jake Hill, who qualified second, which is a great result, and I was fourth, also a great result. Ash Sutton on pole, obviously, and then we had Colin was third. So if you take that, you'd say that's quite a good split. 2 front wheel drives, 2 rear wheel drives in the top 4. Well done. Yeah. The difference being is that Colin had 60 kilos, 660, and Jake Hill had 0. So that's 60 kilo difference in those 2 cars, and they qualified at exactly the same speed. So the truth is, when we are all on 0 weight, I don't think there's much in the front to rear wheel drive thing. I think it's about bang on. The problem is when we put weight in next to us, we slow down in a front wheel drive and they go the same speed. And it just makes it really difficult for us to compete over a season. It's close, but at the moment it's tough. And also the start line thing at the moment is starting to get quite tough to swallow as a front wheel driver. Basically what happens is, obviously if you've got your car, a rear wheel drive as it accelerates would squat and get more grip. Obviously we start like this, and as we accelerate, the front wheels lose grip. So we can't beat physics. So unfortunately, something's happened in this championship over the last few years where the weight is no longer having as much of an effect. And also because we don't have an option tyre this year due to cost-saving measures, we're always racing on the medium. And that's, you're seeing quite often that it's the same people at the front all the time. That sort of, it's not as mixed up as it used to be. And one thing that's becoming quite clear is that the starts are becoming more and more a factor in races and who can win them. So, for example, if I qualify on pole and Colin starts third, I know for a fact I am not getting to the first corner first. And if you're going to somewhere like Alton Park or Knock Hill, Brands Hatch Indy, I know that I can't really overtake him back because there's just not an opportunity. Once we're up and running, it's too difficult to overtake around them circuits. The race is pretty much done and dusted off the start line. So that advantage they've got that's just inbuilt is starting to have a bigger effect. Now, there are places we go where it definitely swings back. And I think the next race for us will be hugely important because we go to Thruxton, which is kind of a Honda stomping ground. It should suit us down to the ground. If we don't go there and really start to claw back some of this, I think we might be in trouble. But ultimately, I'm aiming for a podium again. I think I was third last year. I was the top guy in a front wheel drive. If I can be that again this season, I'll consider that a fantastic achievement. It's such a different philosophy, the front wheel drive to rear wheel drive thing, and we can go around in circles all night and talk about it. But I only know what I'm driving. I know what Tom Ingram is driving, and Jake Hill and Roy Butcher. I can understand be comparable. I have no idea what Ash Sutton and Colin are driving because I've never driven it. Could be completely different to what I'm in. So there's no point having sleepless nights, and believe me, I'd have a few, trying to beat these guys when, truth be told, I have no idea what it could be like, to be honest. So my focus now is purely to be the best of the front wheel drives, and also to do everything I can to try and catch up if possible.
Yeah, you definitely got a fight on your hands there for us. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting season to see how this pans out. We've got lots of questions coming in. Thank you guys for putting them in. We've got a question here from Sophie Gill, who says, "I'm a young karter. What are your career tips to progress and move up the career ladder?"
Career tips is, the big one for me is always give your best. And I know that sounds silly, but you never know who's watching. The main reason my career took a turn and became in a way what it is now, and actually became successful, is because I was very close to giving up at one point on motorsport, and certainly as a driving career, because I couldn't really find the budget to compete. There's a lot of tough days in motorsport. The highs are high, but there's a lot more lows, unfortunately. But the highs do make up for it, so you just got to stick in there. But I was doing a one-off race in Porsches when I got picked up by Tim Harvey and my sponsor Nationwide, who changed my whole career path. I could have quite easily been retired, but I had that one day where I showed what I could do and what I was capable of, and the right person happened to be watching, and it changed my whole career. So that would be one bit of advice. I would always give your best, because you just never know, even when it's all, you think it's the dark days and you think there's no way I can keep going forward, or you're having doubts about what you can and can't do. Always give your best, because you just never know when your opportunity is going to come. And also it's important to punch above a little bit as well. I mean, that's one thing I always did, is no matter where I was racing, I always give my best. And even if I wasn't always in the best teams, or I wasn't, even if I couldn't win, let's say, I would still bring the car home in a position maybe slightly more forward than what it would have done if someone else was in it. And that doesn't go unnoticed. Maybe the fans don't always realise what you haven't got, but believe me, the team managers know exactly what you haven't got, and they will be watching. So even if you might not have the best engine in go-karting, or the best team, the best chassis, and believe me, I know how important it is to have those things, especially in go-karting when the laps are short, the differences in time is so marginal. But if you're getting the very best out of what you've got, people will pay attention and take note. And you just got to keep going. God, I can't tell you the amount of times I've sat with my dad and thought, God, I'm not sure I'm cut out for this. I'm not sure I've got a career ahead of me. But if you believe in yourself, you got to keep going, because one day that door will open and you got to walk through it.
Keeping on the karting theme, we actually had a question in advance saying, has any race win ever been better than your Super 100 National at Clay Pigeon in 2006?
Who sent that in? Was my dad?
I'm not sure.
That win was really good, actually. I was racing a guy called Justin Edgar. Now, the Edgar family in karting is a bit of a dynasty.
So is that relation to Jessica Edgar, who's now doing karting?
Correct.
Now?
Yeah, I think Jessica Edgar is the daughter of Jason.
Yeah.
Jason Edgar. Justin Edgar is Jason's brother, and then their father was a karter in back in the day of the British kart team, back in the day when it was sort of huge. And yeah, they're a bit of a karting dynasty really in the UK, based out of Rowra. Johnny Edgar was a great karter, and now he's in Formula 4, I believe, part of the Red Bull program. So he's one to really watch, as a sort of future British Formula 1 star. But yeah, I was racing Justin. He was with numerous British karting titles. He was the man to beat in my class, and I went to Clay Pigeon and managed to beat him, actually, in a fair fight. He chased me for like 20 odd laps, and didn't make a mistake and actually beat him. And I think my dad still thinks that's probably the best ever win I had, just because I was 17. I was quite new to that level of racing, and we did it, really. And that was, I don't think he ever saw that coming, certainly that early on. But it's things like that kind of kept me going as well. And certainly from my dad's point of view, because without the help of him and the support I got from him and my family, I would never have got where I am, just like a lot of other drivers out there. But he believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself, and obviously that led to where we are. So yeah, that was a good win. Although I'd say there's been some other really good ones since.
Louis has written in and said, do you miss Andrew Jordan?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I do. Andrew's a really good guy, and we get on very well, actually. Obviously, we had a bit of a coming together last year, which was a bit bizarre and silly thing to do, really, under a safety car. I don't think either has ever meant for that to happen, but I can't tell you how, obviously, tensions run high. You're strapped into a racing car. it's loud. It's your adrenaline is pumping massively. You're in a dogfight to try and win the British Touring Car Championship under massive amounts of pressure. And all you know about the situation is that you've got somebody in your ear telling you what you think's right or wrong. So I asked my people what anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about. Me and Andy sort of crashed under the safety car last year at one point. I asked my team what was right, and they told me, and I'm sure Andrew asked his, and they told him, and we couldn't agree. So we just squabbled about it for about 4 laps. Yeah, and we had a bit of a war of words, but I can't tell you how quickly it went away. Probably the next time I saw him, we joked about it, and we get on actually very well. He's one of the guys on the track that you trust when you're racing. You know his ability, he knows yours. There's a level of respect there. He's very, very fast. And ultimately, I want him on the track so I can beat him, because that's what I want to do as a racing driver. To be the best, you got to beat the best. So obviously, last year I was joint second with him, and that was quite annoying actually, because it actually bumped me to third, because he had more wins than me, which I thought was a shame really, because it would have been nice to split the BMWs up. But no, he's a good guy, and I still see him and sort of comment on his Instagram stuff quite regularly. So, and it won't be the last time we see him in British Touring Cars. He'll be back, and I'm sure we'll do it all again.
Andy has asked, what is your favourite track and why? And have you been using a home simulator during lockdown?
My favourite track, probably, you know what, Knock Hill is one of my favourites. Certainly to drive. To drive a lap of Knock Hill is great fun. It's so undulating. You've got to hit the curbs just in the right way. It's a brilliant track to drive. Brands Hatch GP, same thing. I think a lot of drivers will say that is one of their favourites. Mainly because of the character of it. It's just got so much character. And it's a real driver's track as well. If you're committed and you've got some bravery about you, you've got a good car under you, you can really make a difference around somewhere like Brands GP. So those two probably of the British circuits, I would say, are my favourite. Donington's quite good as well, but probably doesn't quite make it into my top list. I've actually driven some great circuits. I've been to Le Mans. That is a truly brilliant place to race, not just because of the circuit. Obviously, the whole weekend when you race at Le Mans is fantastic. So you've got to take that in. I raced at Monaco, another one. But the venue is incredible, and you never don't know you're racing in Monaco. You know, it's you're constantly in awe of the place when you're there. But one thing I didn't know about Monaco is just how fun the track is to drive as well. You'd think it'd be a bit Mickey Mouse, really, but actually it's, when you do a good lap and you're on a lap, it's actually really enjoyable. It flows much better than you think, and it doesn't bite you either quite as hard as you think it will. When I first went out the pit lane, I was so conscious that any mistake, it will have me in the wall. And not long after that, I realised that that's not quite true. I mean, we go to a normal racetrack, and it doesn't mean you're in the grass every 5 seconds, does it? You know, so once I started to approach it like that, the speed went up, and once your speed goes up, your confidence goes up, and yeah, it can bite you, and when it bites, it's going to bite hard. But that's the thrill, isn't it? Just staying just below that point, and I had a great weekend there. I was second in the end, which was an amazing result. So yeah, I'm lucky that I've driven some great circuits all over the world. Actually, I've been to Dubai. There's a good circuit in Dubai. I've done Sepang as well in Malaysia. Bizarre sort of journey, that one. Great circuit. Always rains at bang on 4 o'clock in the afternoon as well, like clockwork. You could literally watch your clock and it was but very cool to do it, and yeah, it's nice to have a few stories.
Right, Caroline Phipps has had her hand up, so hopefully I can allow you to talk, Caroline, and you can ask a question. Hello, Caroline, does that work? Oh, I need to unmute.
She's on mute.
Right.
Oh.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Hello, yeah, I can hear you.
Oh yeah, all right.
How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. What are you doing to keep your fitness up during this break before you go to Thruxton?
To be honest, right now, I mean, the thing is, we've come off so many races back to back. So pre-season, obviously we had. It's important to have quite a good level of fitness, but you don't have to be it's not F1 levels of fitness. Obviously, the races are quite short; they're only sort of 25 minutes to half an hour. We have power steering. The G forces are not as high as what you'd experience, say, in a single seater. So yeah, it's good to have a good level of fitness, but you don't have to be sort of a triathlete or long distance runner. But I like to run quite often. Cycling is quite good as well. I do quite a lot of that. But there is such thing as being race fit. So you could train and you can go to the gym, but when you drive the car for the first time after a few months off, you will feel it in places you just didn't know you could, no matter how you've trained. But because we've done back-to-back races now, I'm as fit as I'm race fit in a way I wouldn't be if I hadn't done that. So my plan now will be probably to do a bit more cycling, a bit more running. Important to try and keep on top of my weight a little bit. I'm quite tall. I'm 6'2", so if I let myself, I'm also getting older. It didn't used to be quite so this difficult, but nowadays I do try and watch what I eat a little bit, just because if I can stay at a good fighting weight, I know that's half the battle. But yeah, mainly at the moment it'll be sort of aerobic stuff, running, cycling. I'm staying away from the gym at the moment, just purely because I don't want to risk any sort of unnecessary trips to somewhere maybe that I could pick up the COVID, because obviously that'd be my season ruined, unfortunately.
Great. Thank you, Caroline. Richard Lomax has asked, what's your view on the BTCC's planned move to hybrid engines? Time to embrace new technology, or is it going to spoil the good old-fashioned racecraft?
No, I think you've got to embrace it, really. I think that's the way the world's going. We can't sit by and watch everyone else do it. I think they said, actually, if we don't do it that year, we would be the last purely petrol formula basically going, which obviously just wouldn't look right. The world's changed, and I'm glad it's hybrid as well. It's not all electric. My girlfriend works for Formula E, so I do know a little bit about the all electric racing. And as great as it is, there is that little bit of a lack of the noise. Certainly for myself, who's grown up with noisy engines, I think if you're quite new to racing, maybe you're a younger generation, maybe that's not going to be such an issue to you. But for me, I'm still a little bit, I don't want to say old school because I'm not old, but I love engines and I want to hear the engine. So I'm glad it's a hybrid, but it's going to bring a whole new sort of ball game, really, because we've got, I'm not sure exactly how it'll be incorporated at the moment. I've seen plans of it. I have an idea of how it's going to work. I believe it's essentially a kind of a push to pass sort of system. So what they're going to do is instead of using the ballast, they will just use the electrical assistance to basically, they'll take the ballast out. We'll all be the same weight, but then they'll give you varying degrees of electric to make up for it. So if you win the race, they will give you less than somebody who's finished 10th, and hopefully they'll have more than you, and then they'll come to the front, and that's how they'll spice it up a little bit. Obviously, there should be much more overtaking, even more than there is now. There's going to be quite a lot of strategy as well, because he's off track stuff that he does nowadays as well. He's setting the example for all of us, really, when it comes to not just his approach on track, but his approach off track. So he's one really to look at. But Tom Ingram, great driver. Rory Butcher, he's obviously showing how his ability at the moment. The list goes on, and that's the thing with touring cars. It's not unlike F1, where you can sort of count in quite quickly the main guys or who's got a chance of winning. I can count to about 15 and they'll have a chance of winning. So, and that's what the fans love, and that's why touring cars are so popular, because it is so it's so close. All the teams are very similar, all the cars are very similar, the drivers are similar, and you just get this real mix up. I can win a race, and I have done. I've won races where you think, right, I've won race 2 and that's been a great race. Suddenly you're in race 3, you're back in the pack, you're starting 12th and you're squabbling over about 15th place. struggling to stay 15th. And you're thinking, hang on a minute, I won the last one. How have I ended up back here? But it's so close out there that quite easily you can find yourself in that kind of situation. And people do week in, week out. I mean, the weekend, Colin and Ash were in a league of their own, really, in the first two races. Race 3, I think they finished about 9th and 10th or something. So that just shows.
Going on for the weekend, Richard had said, Dan, if you could sum up Knock Hill in 3 words, what would those 3 words be?
I'd just go for solid, not spectacular, which I think I said when I started. That's our season in general. To have the results we did, 6th, 4th, and 6th. If you ask me what should I have achieved, I would have said 4, 6. I made not a mistake. I tried to pass Jake Hill in the first race and ended up on the outside of Colin, who was quite quick to put me in the gravel. And I don't blame him because I'd have done the same to him. And I'm looking forward to doing the same to him next time I get a chance. But if you have an average of 5th, which is what I've had, that's a pretty good result in touring car racing. To average 5th position, that's good, very good points. It's very hard to have a consistent day in touring cars. I mean, I spent 2018 and maybe 19 was better, but 18, I could have 1 good race. I could have 2. I never had 3. It was so hard to have 3 consistent races just because it is so tough. There's lots of little bumping and nudging. And race 3, there's a bit of a mentality. I don't know if it comes across on TV, but I know when we're out there, it's weird because the level of the adrenaline rises in race 3. It's like this mentality of it's going in the truck, so it doesn't matter. And it's bizarre because there's the same amount of points in race 3 as there is for race 1 and 2.
Yeah.
You can really tell when you're out there that it's not the same race. And I don't know why that is. And everyone just goes a bit mad. Just surviving a race 3 is tough in itself. So, no, it was a solid weekend. Really good points. I would have loved a podium because I've had a podium in the other few I've done. Mm-hmm. But we were close. We were right there at the end of the day. And as I say, the rear-wheel drives just had a bit too much of an advantage in Scotland for the rest of us. But that doesn't mean to say they're going to have an advantage come Thruxton. So I'd like to think that we got a very good chance of a race win in Thruxton.
Someone actually sent a question in related to that topic saying, we all know the term, if you're not rubbing, you're not racing. Classic kind of BTCC vibe.
Yeah.
Do you feel it's being taken a little bit too far at the moment, or is that just racing?
Tough one, that. I mean, it's not really the world I came from. I was, the Porsche stuff I did was basically teaching me to be a GT driver. My sort of goal was to end up at Le Mans for a factory team, and the whole idea in that sort of racing is you don't hit the other guy. The cars are just not built for contact. The thing about touring cars is they can actually take a little bit more abuse. And ultimately, we're not bad drivers by any stretch, but the rules that we race to, and I don't mean the rules as in what's right and wrong. I'm talking about the team, the cars are so close and the drivers are so close. We all want the same bit of track all the time. And you can't get away from people. So even if you're slightly quicker, how the rules work basically mean that by the time you've put a bit of weight in it or whatever else, you're going around the same speed as everybody else. And unfortunately, there comes times where you can't help but crash, whether that's in a small way, a big way. And it's kept like that for a reason, because it's exciting. That's what the fans want to see. They want to see close racing. It's not always what the drivers want, because at the end of the day, we're racing drivers. We don't want to be bumping into each other. My idea of a good day is just win off the front and never see anyone else. That's my idea of a nice day out. Unfortunately, I don't get it. No one gets it in touring car racing. There are times where it goes a bit too far, but ultimately, the stewards are there to come down on top of us whenever we do take it a bit too far. And it will hot up throughout the season. At the moment, I don't think anyone's really. I haven't seen too much to say that anyone's got there's not many grudges out there yet, but they will come. That they always do, because there's a lot at stake. Certainly, if you're going for the championship. and at some point you're going to have to get your point across, and that's just the way it is. So yeah, it can be quite brutal at times, but also that's just the nature of the beast. And if it became a procession like Formula One, you won't be watching. So
precisely. I think we touched on it briefly earlier, but Thomas has said with the limited time, everyone is having between weekends to work on the cars, are you surprised how reliable they are staying with the number of back-to-back races?
Yeah, I expect them. We've had a few little reliability issues. To be honest, the main ones we've seen so far were from the heat at Brands Hatch. It was such a hot weekend. It was sort of 34, 35 degrees, and quite a few cars, especially the Hondas, bizarrely. Honda's known for its build quality. The Hondas suffered worse than some, which was a shame. We've had such amazing reliability these last few years, but that race, we had a few issues. Now, I know that in the team I'm in, Dynamics, that the cars are prepared to such a fantastic level. And I know that level will not change throughout the season. The guys will always put the car down to the best of their ability. And I'm very thankful for that. I'm in a very lucky position to be part of this team. Can everyone do that? We'll have to wait and see. Because yes, we've got a couple of weeks off now, but then we go again and we do exactly the same again. The races come thick and fast, and we've got more back-to-backs to come. And I think you will see some failures. But ultimately, it's testament to the teams and the guys that they're on top of it. Obviously, they've planned for it, and they're doing everything they can to make sure that the cars are as good as they can be. Because points are very hard to come by in this championship, but it's very easy to lose them. So, every point counts. I know more than most. I lost by 2 last year. So, every little point, every position, all adds up at the end of the day. So no, we'll have to see. I'm really glad that my guys are on top of it. I keep in touch with them quite often. I'll probably go in actually tomorrow and see them and make a few cups of tea and bring some donuts and keep morale high. So because they've come off a really busy couple of weeks. To go from Alton Park, which you've been at since Wednesday night, Thursday morning, to go up to Knock Hill and then get home on the Monday. You almost 2 weeks away for those guys, away from their families and the long days, early mornings. So they'll need some love, bless them. So I'll probably go up and see them for a bit.
Question here. Obviously, when you're doing the races yourself, you're so focused on what's going on with you and your immediate surroundings. Do you then go and watch the TV footage back to kind of get an overview of the whole race and see what's going on with everyone else?
Sometimes it sort of varies. I do watch certain ones and I don't watch others. I can't tell you exactly why that is. If I win, I tend to watch. Funny that. I actually watched Knock Hill back just out of interest. Knock Hill's a great one for film anyway, just because the way the cars attack the chicane and the cinematography you get at Knock Hill is really quite cool. So that is a good one to watch in general. But I do watch some and I don't watch others. I wouldn't say there's not much you can learn from the TV as such, really, because it's such a different perspective when you're sat in it, what you see and what you don't see. And also, I've done so much of it now. I mean, I've been driving around the same circuit since 2009, so 11 years. I actually did. There's a thing where a lot of the drivers do track walks, and I did one at Donington on my Instagram, and I took a few people around, and it's quite funny because we walk around acting like something might change, and it's exactly the same. It looks exactly the same every year. So we look at the same bit of track we looked at last time we were there, which is always good fun. But it's just that thing that drivers do, and I think you feel better when you've done it. So you walk around with a notepad, and I just write, looks the same, and then we move on. But it's, but yeah, there we
go. Someone has asked, would you be interested in a season in a rear-wheel drive car to try your chances?
Ooh, now we're talking. Yeah, yes and no. I mean, I've got what I've got right now. I've got a front-wheel drive Honda Civic, and the top two in the championship right now are in rear-wheel drive cars. That doesn't mean to say that when I get there, if I was given the opportunity to drive one, you have no idea what's around the corner. What you don't want to be is the guy that gets a rear-wheel drive car just as the rules change, and you wish you were in a front-wheel drive car. So right now, I would, if someone said, look, you can drive a rear-wheel drive Honda Civic, I'd say, great, bring it on. Because I think the rules right now just ever so slightly suit them. And I'd much rather start there, have some of their advantages than some of our advantages. And we do have some, don't get me wrong. We are definitely better when it comes to hitting curbs. I mean, people might have seen from Knock Hill, for example, the middle sector where we fly over the chicane, much rather be in my car than a BMW, just because it works better. That is designed to work better, has to work better. Then you get to the last corner and you wish you had a BMW because it has rear-wheel drive traction and it fires off and it disappears. So there's strengths and weaknesses in each package. At the moment, it just looks like when you add all theirs up and you add all ours up, theirs might come to 6 or 7 and ours come to 4 or 5, and that's just the way it is right now. But it doesn't mean to say it's always going to be like that. It really doesn't. And I'm very thankful to have a great team around me. I'm very, very thankful to be in British touring cars. So, no, right now, Honda, for life. And, we've got to push on with what we've got, and we've got to try and make a difference. We've got what we've got. We've got to keep perfecting it and pushing the boundaries of what we've got. And hopefully we can just about get on top of them. I mean, we almost did it last year. There's no reason at all we can't do it again. Let's just see what comes.
Speaking of Honda, we did have a question sent in advance. What is your favourite Honda road car at the moment?
Tough one. I've actually got the Honda NSX at the moment. Honda was very kind enough to lend me it for a week, so it's I actually took it up to Scotland and had a few good drives in that. The NSX is a truly stunning supercar. It's bright orange is the one I've got. It looks every bit the supercar. It's truly stunning. Probably the most fun thing about actually having that car is seeing people's reactions when they realise it's a Honda, because they just don't know it exists. I don't think they've ever seen one. I certainly have never seen a Honda NSX of the new type on the road. There's so few out there. It's quick in a way that few other cars are. I mean, it's nearly 600 horsepower, but it's the hybrid system that really sets it apart. I actually tried the launch control out of the on the slip road out of the services on the motorway the other day on the way to Knock Hill, and it actually comes up with a rocket ship on the dashboard when you put it into launch. And I had a cup of tea between my legs. I probably should have taken that rocket ship more literally, because as it set off, the tea that was in the cup, and I had a lid on it, but the inertia pushed it out of the lid and like a water fountain. So I'm now going up the slip road at 0 to 60 or whatever, with like a fountain of tea. It wasn't sensible. It was silly, really. And I think the jeans I wore all day that day had tea stains on them. And I remember thinking, God, next time the rocket ship wasn't pretending. Put it that way. It's so fast it's so fast in 0 to 60. I think it's one of the fastest accelerating cars you can buy, actually. I think it's about 2.8 seconds or something silly. And the main reason for that is, the electrical assistance that it gives you. It's effectively 4-wheel drive, and it's an amazing car, truly amazing. And you just don't see many. So that, as a feat of engineering, that is incredible. I was lucky enough to actually have the Honda E as well recently. Honda let me have a little go in that. I did a bit of a short film with them, and that's actually one of the things I enjoy about touring cars. That I enjoy about being part of the Honda brand is that I get to do some of this cool stuff that others maybe don't get to do. So they give me the Honda E for a few days, and that was the same. People would actually come up to you and want to talk to you about it. One guy actually pulled up next to me, got out of his car, walked back to have a conversation about it because he'd never seen one and wanted to know more about it. It's stuff like that that I really enjoy being involved in. But the Honda E is super cool as well. Loads of tech, all electric, which is new to me. I've never had been an all electric car before, but it was super cool. So between them two, actually, I think the Civic Type R is mega. I've had one on the road for quite a while. That is the best hot hatch you can buy, period. It is just such a stunning car. Great road car, and will go on a track faster than most things, which is super impressive. But yeah, if I was to have a 2-car garage right now, I'd have a Honda E and a Honda NSX.
We had a question sent in beforehand saying, if you could drive any BTCC car from the past or present, what would it be and why?
Oh, that's quite a tough one, actually. I actually don't know. I mean, I'd have to have a go in a super tourer, I imagine. You know, the heyday, as it was sort of known, of touring cars back when the rules were much more open, budgets were much higher. You know, obviously been a teammate to Matt Neal. I get and his engineer Barry, who was his engineer back in the day. They've got some fantastic stories about those days and just how great the cars were. You know, I wish I could tell you some of them, but to be honest, Matt tells them far better than I do. So you'll have to do one of these with Matt. I'm sure he'll fill you in on some of the stuff they used to get up to. But to the extent that there were stories where one car manufacturer, I can't remember, I won't tell you exactly who, but they were actually making a different size doors on a different production line to fit the shell. And that's just a level that we just don't go to anymore. You know, that shows you how dedicated they were to creating a fast racing car, that they were actually making smaller doors just so it fit just so they could sort of get around the rules slightly. That's a hell of an investment. So yeah, I'd have to say a Super Tourer. I'm not sure exactly which one. I grew up sort of watching Menu and Plato when they were in the Williams Renault. And that probably would be the one as well, just because it was run by Williams and, you know, legendary Frank Williams. And yeah, that'd probably the one I'd go for.
So Rob Squire has been asking, what are your thoughts on these rumours of Gordon Shadden possibly be returning to the touring car paddock?
Well, I know Gordon well, obviously through the team. I see him often. At Knockhill, he was with us very often. Obviously very, very fast and accomplished. A great friend of Team Dynamics, a great friend of Matt's, and the whole team, to be honest. I mean, I tested with him in the start of this season because obviously Matt got quite badly injured mountain biking. He fractured collarbone and broke some ribs, punctured the lung. He was really in a bad way, Matt was. And truth be told, had the season not been delayed, Matt was not making the start of the season. He tried, and all the press releases and all the sort of comments were positive. Don't worry, I'll be there. But the truth is, he wasn't making it. And Gordon would have stepped in. There's no doubt about that. Gordon was primed to go in. We'd done testing at Knockhill. And Donington, he'd already tested the car, so he was very much going to be in the car. And obviously, then COVID hit, and obviously the time frames got changed, and Matt had longer in recovery, and obviously Matt's back in the car, and that's great. But there's no doubt Colin would be a massive addition to British touring cars. I'm sure that he'll be looking to find his way back in. I'm sure he'd love to be back in Dynamics. I mean, I know that he looked to get back in quite recently, and obviously I'm there at the moment, and I'm very happy to be there and have a nice shiny contract. So I'm sure he'll be pushing to get that changed. But you know, there's other teams out there he'll be looking at. You know, but he'll want to go somewhere that's competitive for one. He doesn't want to go somewhere that's not, because why does he need that? You know, he's so accomplished and he's so fast, so he needs a package that's going to allow him to challenge for the title, and he needs somewhere that commercially makes sense. You know, there's lots of drivers available out there if you can bring some money to them. There's very few out there available if you're not in that position. So I'm sure he's looking at it quite closely, but whether or not it's actually feasible, that's a different thing. You know, I do see lots of things from fans saying, you know, let's get Gordon back, and yeah, if only it was that simple. He will be trying, and there's people out there that will be trying to help him as well. So let's see on that one. Let's see what 2021 brings.
Definitely. I have to ask this question for Mark as well. He said, as a trainee clerk of the course, should there ever be pineapple on a pizza?
Yeah, I don't mind it. I take it off weirdly, but my eating habits are a bit odd actually, because I'd take it off and then I'd have a piece of it on and be like, oh, I quite like that, but I'd still take it off the next slice, and I don't know why I do that. So I could quite easily eat a pizza with pineapple on, but I guarantee you, I would order it, I would take the pineapple off. And I don't know why I do things like that. So yeah, I don't mind pineapple on pizza. It kind of works.
Yeah, it's very.
There's worse things than that. Way worse. You know, like people that put like fish on pizzas and stuff, like anchovies and stuff.
Oh no, anchovies is not the one.
Definitely not for me, that.
Thomas has said, would you ever have a go at racing, maybe in some of the historic stuff or the mini Miglias against Andrew Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, it's historic stuff is not something I've ever really been involved in. I'm getting closer to it now through Dynamics, because Matt's done quite a lot of it. Dynamics have a business of actually restoring and racing classic cars. You know, that's what they do. So I can get a little bit closer to it. And Matt actually said the other day, do you want me to have a look and sort of sound out a few people and see if I can get you in something for sort of the Goodwood type stuff? And
very nice, yeah.
To be honest, I'm not sure if it's for me yet. I quite like racing the modern stuff. One, it comes with a 6-point safety harness, which I'm very happy to have. And two, I'm still trying to I was a lap and a half from being champion this last year. And if I had been champion, maybe my outlook had been slightly different. But right now, I still feel I've got to get on top of this championship before I turn my attentions to anything else. I'm in a very privileged position that I race for a fantastic team. I'm a professional racing driver, and there's very few people out there like that. So for me, I want to be on top of my game, and I don't want anything to detract from that. You know, I'm a British touring car driver for Honda, and that's my job, and that's what I am. So right now, I'd rather stick to that. There's a lot of time in the future to play with historic cars. But I won't get these years back where I'm in a top team fighting for the biggest title in British motorsport. So I've got to take that first.
Definitely. We're coming up to our hour now. So we're just going to have a few quick fire questions to round off. Thank you very much for joining us. So sent in advance, we had favorite pre-race snack?
Banana.
Wet or dry race?
Dry.
Monaco or Le Mans?
Le Mans.
Senna or Prost?
Prost.
Front wheel drive or rear wheel drive?
Front.
Oh,
that was you trying to catch me out now.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Dan. And
no problem, my pleasure.
For sending your questions in. It's been great to put your questions down this evening. We've got a future Q&A coming up in October with Richard Milliner, who's the M Sport team principal for the World Rally team. M Sport, of course, also linked to BTCC now through the hybrid engines. And also they run Bentley's GT program for that as well. So that will be coming up soon. Look out for that in various Motorsport UK publications. We'd love to have you. And thank you for joining this evening. Thanks again, Dan.
No problem. Cheers, guys.